Excellent, excellent. Actually, what's the best costume or cosplay that you've ever seen? It doesn't have to be Halloween specific.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say like every Halloween party I've ever been to, like the costumes are never that great. Like it's always someone buying
man.
that like costume in a bag, like
Oh,
the
like
night
the
before.
copyright, like Wizard Boy, it's Harry Potter ripoff costumes. Those are awesome.
Yeah,
Scarred Wizard
Sonic.
Boy. Yeah.
Arachnid fellow.
Sonic the Fast Hog.
but I've been to so many conventions, and just I would say MegaCon is like the cosplay convention that I've been to, where I've just seen like insane stuff, and half the stuff I don't even know what it is. Just
Same.
like giant armor things that you can tell people just put like years into making. There's this one, I think he's local. There's this one guy that does a really good Iron Man.
Oh, yeah, he is. I photographed him in the
Why
Jaguars
can I not-
stadium before.
Did you
Yeah.
really? Is his name
'Cause-
Ted?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Head, yeah.
Did
That's
he
all
paint
I
it
know
like
about
Jaguar
him.
colors? Didn't he paint
Yeah,
it?
he had the
Jaguar colors. Hell
the
yeah.
Jaguar Iron Man
Said
outfit.
some like place
Yeah.
in China made that for him. He like they designed it and made it.
Shh, keep it, keep
Oh,
it on
my
the
bad.
low, Ed.
Is it embargo?
It's American made.
Okay.
Exactly.
Hey,
Ashley.
Stark needs to save money too. It's about bottom
Yeah,
line.
the Alibaba Iron Man.
Alibaba Wish. It's the Wish Iron Man.
But yeah,
had to
when I
change
met
some
that
things
guy, yeah, he had like the full Iron Man suit, but no helmet, and he was like drinking a cocktail and like talking to like a hot lady, and I was like, oh, that's the Jacksonville
Robert
Iron
Downey.
Man.
That's legit.
He's really into the cosplay if he's drinking. He's an alcoholic. Tony Stark.
What if you would have approached him and he'd be like, "Wait, I'm in an Iron Man suit? Oh shit! It's
Who's Iron Man?
how many? Yeah,
This is just my Friday night suit.
exactly.
You should see what Saturdays is.
All right, Ed. Same question to you, man. Wrap us up.
I'm thinking anytime I see those best of lists at the San Diego Comic Con, those are always some. There's a really awesome Juggernaut I saw like a couple years ago, and to echo what Kory was saying, like that Warhammer stuff is incredible. I went to a show. I was at a show, and a guy was like probably 10 feet tall in this Warhammer outfit. And he's walking down the aisle, and this little kid, like a little kid, just looks up and starts crying. That's a good costume. Kid
That's a
just
great
starts
gauge.
crying. It's
Yeah.
like autumn.
That's a really good gauge.
Effective.
Damn. I do recall one. It might have been like my first game event. I had seen this dude cosplay as Kratos from God of War. And it was literally like the movie, like the video game character jumped off screen and was, grabbing a drink at this party. This dude was fucking ripped. I was like, come on, bro. Come on, man. Like, you could have just been you, and it would have been impressive. But, you're cosplaying as Kratos God of War?
It would be
Who
fat.
let you in with those chains?
I don't know if I want to see fat Kratos. I don't know.
That's gonna be the next. That's gonna be the third game. Is Kratos? Is
Oh, I
retirement
love it.
Kratos.
Just overweight.
Retirement
slazing.
Kratos. Yeah. Good stuff. All right. Good. All right. I feel like we're properly warmed up. Let's go ahead and bring in the intro music and get this show started. I got a special little intro today. Playing with some of these other effects on my machine, so hopefully I don't fuck it up. But here we go, y'all. Cheers to all. First of all, cheers to all of you. All right. First of all. To a fantastic Sunday, to surviving Hurricane Ian, and really beautiful weather for
so
for
nice.
a spooky season episode. It is like gorgeous weather outside.
Thanks, Ian.
Yeah. All right.
All it took was to wipe out Fort Myers, and we got this nice weather for a day.
Tough. Shout out to our Fort Myers and West Florida listeners, man. Hopefully you guys are safe out there. All right, here we go. Otter, don't fuck this up.
Box Nation. Welcome back to the podcast.
How are we doing today? God damn it. This
He
is
just took C's job. That's the machine just took his job.
Was that
machine-
DJ Elzebub from Straight Chilling?
Great shout out, Kory. I could only wish to be to nail that down. Big shout out to C. Big shout out to Straight Chillin'. This machine is worth every penny. Short Box Nation, how are we doing today? To all of our new friends joining us for the first time, my name is.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing that all day. Welcome to the Short Box Podcast, the comic review and talk show where we provide you with the best conversations about comics, culture, and more. This is episode 371, our spookiest one yet. I spent all morning loading up this machine, so you guys are about to hear it.
You gonna play the Monster Mash next?
No, Ashley's actually going to do that karaoke after BTS.
Can't wait.
Shortbox Nation, today we're carrying on a new tradition that we started last year around this time, and we're talking about horror comics. The crew and I will be spotlighting some of our favorite scary stories ever told in the sequential medium that we all love. So this episode is not for the faint of heart. It's definitely not for my squeamish ass. But it's certainly one for the undead and all of those that worship its darkest denizens.
Oh my God.
MJ Thriller, come on, you can't bring in
You brought
spooky
him.
season.
Yeah, you brought Vincent Price back too.
You can't bring in the spooky season
Oh, no.
without hearing Michael Jackson Thriller. I almost got Kory spit his drink. Almost. All right, speaking of denizens, allow me to introduce you to the ones that reside on today's panel. In the studio, sitting next to me is the Yuri Edmund Danzard.
Ooh, spooky.
I'm gonna definitely fade that out in post. It's a little long than I want. And calling in live. Hold up, let me make sure I'm good to go. Okay. And calling in live from the 7th circle of hell is the murderous matriarch to be, Miss Ashley Lanny Hoy. What up, Ashley?
Wow.
Hey.
Wolverine's call sound is the best I had on short notice, all right? Bear with me. Bear with me. Jesus Christ. All right. And joining us this episode is a special guest co-host sitting in the 4th chair today. It's been a while since we had a 4th member and a 4th voice on the show, but we're happy it's this guy right here. He's been a podcaster for the last 2 years, and he's a great friend of ours. And he's quick to remind you that the world is his burrito, and you're just a mushy, refried bean, lucky to live in it. Shortbox Nation, we got Kory Torjussen on the show this week. Let's give him a round of applause, damn it. What up, Kory? What up, Kory?
What up? What up? I want to suck your blood.
Okay, he said blood.
Yeah. Keep it a PG for the kids, you know.
Kory, can I just say, I swear to God, in my show notes, I wrote that joke down. At first, I was going to say, welcome to Showbox Nation, and I want to suck your blood. But even I was like, oh, that's way too fucking cheesy.
It's too low. That's too low.
I don't want to be an embarrassment to the Shortbox.
I brought my long-handled shovel today, man.
Kory, how is everything going with the podcast, The World is My Burrito? How are you doing?
It's good. It took forever to get my last episode out thanks to moving and technical issues on the computer end. But I'm really looking, thanks to the growing family that I have on the straight chilling end of things, and the growing interest in horror in general, I'm really looking forward to the rest of this month. I'm hoping to knock out a couple of things before the end of the month.
Hell yeah. Kory, what I like about your show is just the range of topics that you touch on. I was looking at what you've got in the docket these last couple of episodes. I know your most recent one is about Buddha, right? Like the book Buddha, correct?
Yeah,
and
it's
then,
Osamu Tezuka's.
There we go. And then the episode before that was about fucking BioShock. And I just don't know. I mean, even in the world's best 6 degrees of Ashley Lanny Hoy, you can't make that connection happen. So, bravo to you. All right, you're covering the topics you love, and I'm happy to see it.
I appreciate it, man.
All right, and while we're on introductions, and before we get started on the spooky topics at hand, allow me to remind everyone listening right now. All right, I need you guys to listen up, so I'm adding this little special sound effect. Listen up, listen up. Oh shit, it's still on. Oh my God. You gotta double press it. That's funny. All right, I want everyone to know, right now that I got your attention, I want you all to know that you still have a chance to win a $100 valued comic from us and our partners at the Shortbox comic app for free. I should have done the megaphone right there, but it's for free. All right, this is a free contest to win this comic book. We're going to give one lucky person a pristine copy of a 9.8 CGC graded Deadly Class #1, which would make for an awesome addition to anyone's collection, whether you're just starting out collecting comic books or you've been collecting for a while. Having a Deadly Class #1 at this grade would be pretty fucking epic. It's free to enter in this contest, and the rules are very simple. But your window of opportunity is closing. We'll be announcing the winner on our Instagram this Friday, October 14th. So please, don't waste any more time thinking about it. All right? If you've ever entered in any contest that takes place on, Instagram or social media, you know how easy it is. You like a post, you share it, you tag 2 friends, and it's easy peasy, all right? So you could be doing the same thing. Click the link in the show notes to enter in this free contest. And a big shout out to our partners at the Shortbox comic app. It is the app that is making it safer and easier to buy and sell graded comics online. Shortbox is available on iOS and Android devices, so check them out. Why not? Let's see. I think I got one more. I got one more shameless plug, and we'll get started. But this is last and definitely not least. I want to shout out a Shortbox listener that goes by the name of Jason Barnes. Ed, I think you might know him, correct?
I don't know. Jason Barnes?
He said it was familiar with like old Gotham and Donnie and all that. I'll talk to you afterwards. But
Okay.
I want to shout out Shortbox.
Sure, yeah, I
listener,
know. Jason
Barnes.
Oh, Buddy Barnes. Bucky Barnes. Jason Bucky Barnes. That small guy.
That guy.
Okay, is that good? All right.
They got this part of the video doesn't make it onto the podcast part. Not only has Jason been a faithful supporter for years now, but he's probably got the highest IQ out of all of our listeners. I'm sorry, Mom. I know you're listening, but look, Jason's got everyone beat, all right? Because he is the first person that has ever used the discount code that I place in the show notes every episode. And it's probably the most obvious discount code of all time, considering I'm the one that made it. It's YO. It is just 3 letters, YOO. But it gives people 10% off anything they buy from the Shortbox store. So I want to give Jason a round of applause for being a financially smart shopper. You know we love some frugal shopping. We love discount codes. The struggle is real. It's always been real. Shout out to you, Jason. And this is the part where I plug the Shortbox store and all the merch that we have available for sale there. We got hats, we got shirts, we got pins. We even got 3D minifigs, all right? Click the link in the show notes to cop some merch and wear that shit, all right? Wear that shit out proudly out and about. We're on the topic of Halloween this week, so wear that shit with our faces. Sorry, wear that shirt with our faces to a funeral or rock the hat.
Wear that shit.
Wear that shit.
So I was channeling, I was channeling my best Samuel L. Jackson on that one. You know, Ed, how hype I get, plugging, doing my shameless plugs. But wear that shirt with our faces to a funeral or rock the hat at your next seance, all right? You want to look fresh. Stop showing up to your seances all dusty and looking broken. Show up fresh, all right?
They're not going to show up if you're looking like a shithead. Those ghosts ain't showing up, talk to you.
Exactly.
But
your grandma is not coming back.
When are you going to do a deal with Nike and get some shoes?
Oh, yeah.
Soon, I'm hoping. But like my favorite TV life coach likes to say, stop wasting your life not thinking about the Shortbox.
You're sitting on the couch, you're watching TV, and your life is passing you by.
Exactly. It's just passing you by. Yeah, you got no fresh Shortbox merch. Looking dusty. Come on, man. Go to the store. Anyways, with those very aggressive and spooky, remember the spooky part, shameless plugs out the way, let's talk about the comics that will make you shit your pants.
Oh, jeez.
A little too aggressive?
Guaranteed. Yeah.
There's a lot of shit in this episode.
That's a really strong
Wear that
coffee.
shit while you're shitting in your pants.
Thank God we don't
That's
sell.
the Shortbox promise.
Can't wait to see that on a shirt.
There's a reason we don't sell Shortbox pants or shorts, all right? You just mess them up anyways listening to the show. All right. Who's going to... You know what, Kory, you're our guest of honor today. I want you to go ahead and kick off our spooky show and tell. Tell us about the comic book that you chose. Today's assignment... I'm sorry, let me take a step back. Today's assignment was each one of us was going to bring a horror comic that, whether we have loved it for a long time, we've read it a bunch of times, or it's something new that we tried. The goal was to bring your favorite or new horror comic to share with everyone. So kind of like a spooky show and tell. Kory, you're our guest of honor. How about you go ahead and kick us off? What did you bring?
Okay, so it was too easy to pick Junji Ito, so I had to go off to something else. I picked Blood on the Tracks, or Chi no Wadachi, by Oshimi Shuzo. He's a pretty long time running horror Japanese manga writer and artist, but I picked sorry, brain fart. Yeah, Blood on the Tracks. I picked this. It is a coming of age, ongoing still, started in 2017, psychological thriller about a boy whose overprotective mother straight up murders his cousin in front of him and then denies it to husband and family. And that's all just in the first volume. There are currently 11 volumes out, and I finished up the 11th one during the power outage. But it is just very like mentally fucked up. The mother is very controlling, and it is I don't know. I read it, and it's one of those that like I had a good childhood, but you can see how some people might not have had a good childhood.
Is this one of those? Is this one of those stories where you read it and you're like, "Whew, thank God I wasn't in that situation."
Yeah.
Thank God my parents loved me.
It is, but it's definitely one of those like, you know, I had a good childhood, but it, you know, coming from a single parent home, there were definitely stressors, and just remembering some of those moments where it's like, you know, my parent did something that like, yeah, this was a little over the edge, but then you read this and it's like, well,
She didn't,
maybe
they
not that
didn't
over
kill
the
your
edge. Didn't try to
deny
kill
it.
anyone.
To the police.
They got a
But
good
it
batting
is,
average.
yeah.
I guess if we're
It's-
using
it's-
that to compare childhoods, no one was killed in front of me. So it wasn't bad. It's like,
Yeah,
pretty
not
good
too
childhood.
bad. But I can't say too much. Like it's one of those that you can't really say anything without giving away some other major plot points. It's very slow, which is it works for it.
Is it, how many volumes is it? You said 11, or you're just
So
at
yeah,
11?
in the U.S., the 11th one just released. There are currently 13 in Japan.
Is it done, or is it still continuing?
It's still ongoing.
Oh wow.
So they're at, I think 11 was like 98 chapters, something like that. It averages 5 chapters per volume. But yeah, it's extremely depressing, and like just mentally horrific because it's very real. It's not supernatural in any way.
It's like your Japanese bleak horror.
Yeah, the mono no aware is what they call it. Where, I mean, the only way that I can phrase it is that the bad is bad and the good is worse. Like they're towards the end of it, the current end in the U.S. volumes, the main character Seiichi takes this amazing step, like, you know, super lot of mental effort to do the right thing, and it does not go well for him. And it's surprising like that. It's not visually surprising. You know, it's just like, oh my God, how can this get any worse? And then it does, and it's like,
So it's
oh,
like
nice.
more like a psychological horror, more than like,
Oh yeah, it's
it's not
definitely
like Junji
deep-
Ito where it looks like a normal manga and then there's like a guy with
No.
his flayed and eyeballs and weird twisted up.
No, nothing like
crazy.
that. They do about the only thing they do, which is I think even pretty normal in regular comics. Sometimes the art style will change based on whether it is a memory or it is the character like having a mental breakdown. Like the moment the cousin is pushed, he's pushed over the edge of a cliff. And the moment the main character Seiichi sees it, like it's great because there's outlines of everything, but then the shadows and stuff like that are all like squiggly lines. So there's this beautifully like thin lined, perfect, you know, art that goes into like squiggly lines. And then as the character, you start seeing things from his point of view as he's running through the woods to tell the rest of the family that his cousin fell off a cliff. Like not, that's I think the only time that you see everything warped, just that like visual, you know, the forest is warped, the trees are pulled, to the side, everything looks like it's shot through a fisheye lens, but those are also squiggly lines because he can't see things clearly.
Can I say? Sorry to interrupt, but Kory, when you posted the when you added your item to the outline, I went and checked out the Wikipedia page, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like when it comes to manga, the more slice of life, and especially like I guess horror manga, like horror manga, the more slice of life the cover is, probably the more fucked up it'll be. Because that was the most slice of life cover I've ever seen. A little, beautifully, it looked like painted at that, like beautifully drawn mother holding a adorable little kid. I was like, oh, this can't be that scary. And then I read the synopsis and everything you said. I was like, what the fuck?
I thought he was trolling us. He's like, Parenthood is scary. Right, guys? Yeah. All right, Ashley will know soon.
So Ashley, read this, and you'll know what not to do as a mother.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, don't push your nephew off a cliff. Lucky we're in Florida. Don't have to worry about that.
That's true.
I think that works for a lot, because even like some of the Junji Ito collections are a little bit different, but the covers for the main ones, you have no idea what's going on the cover, and some of them just look cool, or look. Well, I mean, I think cool is kind of the end of where he doesn't really do anything that's absolutely beautiful. But yeah, the first cover art is watercolor, and even the first few pages are all watercolor. And that is something that is used a couple of times on and off throughout the series, is watercolored panels. I think it's because it is physically a lot easier to drown out the background. So when it's a memory, the background can be faded, but it's still really attractive to look at. And then there's crisp lines, like when he remembers being young, the mother is just like perfectly crisp, fine details, but everything surrounding them is, watercolor.
Hey, I was curious. I was curious. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kory.
Well, I was going to say you go ahead first, because I'm about to go a little further.
Well, I wanted to jump in real quick and ask, kind of like Ed's point, you said there was like 11 volumes. You've already kind of caught up. And I know for me, personally speaking, like when it comes to like very heavy psychological stories that are like, meant to like, not per se have a bunch of jump scares, but like the atmosphere and the subject matters at hand is kind of heavy. I know for me, I usually try to find like a break, because it's just like, if I read too much of that, it kind of just ruins I'm in a weird mood the whole day. Was that the case for you as someone that like thoroughly enjoys like kind of the more scarier stuff, horror things? Like, was it easy for you just to like plow through all 11 volumes, or did it ever get to a point that you were like, let me take a break and go do some happy shit?
Not as much as it used to be. I burned through the first 5 volumes last year, and then I finished 6 through 11 this past week. My favorite genre is that like absolutely depressing, nothing comes out positive. It doesn't really like bother me. It's one of those that I like to see how different people is it metaphorical? Are they telling a story? Like Devilman Crybaby. If you haven't seen it on Netflix, absolutely amazing. But nothing good happens. Everything good that happens results in something worse. But that's this metaphorical story of like, you create your own demons and you have to live with it. But then you have like Battle Royale, which is probably the oldest thing that I've consumed. The lead characters survive at the end, but like at what cost? Like, what does it mean to live if that's the world that you have to be in, where the government's just going to send you to kill your fellow classmates? It's one of those that I've grown to love, and I feel like it's only in Japanese, because that is kind of a long, a very old type of storytelling, is that everything sucks. The pathos of things.
That's a trope, and I think as someone growing up reading like Western fiction, we're kind of programmed to look for either a definitive conclusion, or at least a happy ending, or there's an optimistic, feeling at the end. Whereas the Japanese do not subscribe to that at all. At least a lot of the fiction, and like especially with Devilman Crybaby, which is probably the most probably the best adaptation of Go Nagai's Crybaby, or I'm sorry, Devilman. And it ends the same way. It's the same, pretty much exact same ending, you know, just with some more, you know, modern flourishes in the animation. But yeah, it's bleak stuff for sure.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's fun. And then, well, I did an episode last year on Hellraiser. So like that as well. Clive Barker has a lot of, you know, short stories or even long stories that are just like, you fucked up and it's never going to get better no matter what you try to do. Like, you can be a better person, but you made one mistake and now it's going to haunt you for the rest of your life. So
right.
yeah, it's great.
That sound. Can't wait to read this on this beautiful sunny Florida weather here soon. All right, Kory, we'll get back to you here in a second. I want to move on to Ashley. I'm gonna pass the baton to you. What was your horror comic for today?
So for this year, I reread the first 4 issues of Harrow County, which was something that I was reading as it came out, and I think it's been finished for about 5 years now. But I like it because it kind of has like a Hellboy Black Hammer feel, where it's just everything's kind of odd, everything's kind of off. And then you pointed out that I picked witches last year, which is funny because it's same. It revolves around like a witch and a big scary tree. But it sounds like it's a little bit more fun to read than Kory's pick. A little more light, I mean, because I was
funny.
able to.
Which is real quick. Which is funny because I think your covers are probably the most. I think they telegraph. Probably the best at, hey, this is some fucked up shit. You know, monsters.
Harrow County's cover looks terrifying.
But yeah, so it's about like a little. Well, she's 18, and the whole town thinks that she is like this reborn witch. And her best friend is this little boy, except like he's like he keeps his skin and his body separate. So if she's in trouble, like this little skinless creature comes out and saves her. So that's really scary. And then she carries around a bag. She carries around a bag with just like this little dead boy's skin, and he's like her friend. They like talk to each other. But somehow it's like, it's creepy, but it's also just fun. It's just like Hellboy. It's just like lighthearted, and it's just quirky. I think that's the word I'm looking for.
I like. There's a on the Wikipedia. I don't know what issue this is. It looks like maybe issue 1 is what they got for the image. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can't see that. But they've got a little blurb from Mike Mignola on the cover of issue 1, and it looks like the quote is, "A rare thing, both wonderfully charming and genuinely disturbing." Mike Mignola, which I think is anytime you get first of all, if you get a Mike Mignola like cosign, it's like you're probably doing something right.
Dark Horse probably makes them do it. Promote this book, Mike. Come on, man.
Like, Mike, if you're not going to draw the interiors of Hellboy, you better give us.
You
some
haven't
fucking
drawn
books.
in 15 years. Come on.
Good stuff.
No, but yeah, Cullen Bunn is a great writer. He does pretty much everything. Yeah, he does really good work.
That's actually an understatement. Colin Bunn literally has written like almost every title. I think he's still I think he writes 99.9% of DC titles now or Marvel at any given time. Good stuff. And then, Ashley, are you familiar with this? I'm not familiar with the artist, Tyler Crook, but it says here that he's known for like his work with Mike Mignola, speaking of which, on like BPRD and stuff. How is the artwork?
That's the only thing that I know him from is some BPRD stuff. So the artwork's nice. It's an example of good interior watercolor artwork. Because I don't want to keep harping on this, but I've seen bad interior watercolor artwork.
Jeff Lemire.
There's a right way to do it, and this guy he does it well. It's quirky. You can tell what's going on. He's got like really good lighting. It's just, the book is really fun. Even like it does have some really creepy little scary characters in it. But overall, I think like quirky and charming. Like those are my 2 words for this book.
I love it. And then in regards to like maybe the scarier aspects or the horror aspects, like what would you point to? Is it more of like, like maybe Kory's thing where Well, I'm sorry. It doesn't sound like it's something like Kory's title, where it's like very kind of slice of life, psychological. It sounds more like maybe jump scares, or is it more like on the kind of like body grotesque angle? Like where did the horror aspects come in?
It's more coming from like the creature side, because there are panels where you're like looking into the woods or you're looking into like darkness in a panel, and then the next one something's like jumping out at you. But yeah, he does a really good job at like drawing all these little creatures, because it's hard to get scared by something like an image, I guess, like a drawn watercolor image.
You're like, damn, that shit's beautiful.
Like most of like the scariest things I've ever seen are like movies, so it's hard to get like a comic, like a bright comic, to scare you. But there is some pretty creepy stuff in this.
All right, good stuff. Good pick, Ashley. Ed, let's go to you, man. What's your horror pick for today?
And this is a book that it's...
The best part about Ed being in the studio is he always brings this reference material.
Oh, nice.
Stuff to the camera.
Is Charles Burns' Black Hole. It is basically... It started as a 12-issue miniseries, but it took him 10 years to do. And if you look at the art, you can see why. That's all ink.
Damn.
He uses more black ink than anyone I've ever seen.
Jeez.
I don't know how his paper doesn't buckle. That's how much ink he uses. But the what attracted me to this is, like, I got the single issues here too, like these covers.
He's a pro, man. Ed's a pro.
And I think I was going to Universe at the time, and I just saw the cover, and these came out so sporadically. Like, I kind of was starting to collect them kind of more than halfway through the run. So anytime I would see an image, I would order it, or if I see it but it came out so infrequently, I forget what I have. I just see Black Hole on the shelf, grab it. So I got like doubles of like 5 or 6 of these issues. But then they came out with this really nice hardcover a few years ago. But like I said, it switched from Kitchen Sink Press to Fantagraphics. And like I said, this is 10 years of someone's life doing this book. But fret not, this guy's a pro. Like Botter said, he was a professional illustrator, so this wasn't what he was, he wasn't relying on this to pay the bills. This is his hobby. This was his hobby while he was doing, work for like Altoids and Coca-Cola and magazine. This guy's like a pro's pro.
That's wild.
But he started in the underground comics, like with Art Spiegelman, Dan Clowes, that kind of era of artists. So this is basically... I think I can read the back. I think a little bit of the back, because it kind of gives you a good idea. So the back of it was like a horrible game of tag. It took a while, but they finally figured out it was some kind of new disease that only affected teenagers. They called it the teen plague, or the bug. And there were all kinds of unpredictable symptoms. For some, it wasn't too bad. A few bumps, maybe an ugly rash. Others turned into monsters or grew new body parts. But the symptoms didn't matter. Once you were tagged, you were it forever. So basically...
Bars. Mic drop right there.
So...
Can I also say, because Kory and Ashley couldn't feel it, but Ed's phone was going off the entire time he read that, vibrating. And it only added to the suspense of you reading that. I was like, what the fuck's going on with this house? Get that haunted book out of here, Ed.
It's cursed. It's cursed.
I was like, is that a phone? Where? Like, it's not mine. I checked my own phone. I'm like looking around, like no one is reacting to this.
So you basically follow like Chris and Keith are the two main characters that kind of split off, and they kind of basically dealing with his disease. And it's easy to kind of say this is like an allegory for AIDS or for an STD or something, but this takes place in the probably mid to late 70s when Charles Burns was like his age. So he's smart that he writes kids when he was a kid. Like sometimes it's awkward reading, like even like Kirby will write for kids and it's like, that's some funky beans. It's like, what the fuck? It doesn't make sense, but he's smart that he wrote a book about teenagers in a time when he was a teenager. So it makes a lot of sense. But the disease is kind of the backdrop. It's more of like a character study, how these kids are. So basically like that tag said, so some people will get like a weird rashes or stuff that they can cover up so they can still go to school and still kind of live their life somewhat normally. But other kids get really messed up. You know, their faces get all messed up. They get large lesions and things like that. It's a lot of body horror. I guess if we're going to do the if, you know, X met Y type of thing, it's like, I guess if, you know, David Lynch did Dazed and Confused with a little Stephen King in there. Because, like I said, they don't really, the disease is there, but they don't talk about what caused it. They don't talk about how to treat it. That's really kind of the backdrop. So a lot of these kids end up living, and this takes place in like Seattle, the Pacific Northwest area. So these kids who are really messed up looking, they end up living in kind of like in the woods, kind of almost like a leper colony. So they're kind of hiding out in the woods. There's these weird little totems, and then this kind of these murders start happening. But like I said, it's a very critically praised book, but I think a lot of people will just kind of see the premise and write it off. Oh, this is a book about AIDS, you know, and not really give it a shot. The artwork is stunning. Like all that white. I've seen some of the original art like online, and he's not using any white marker or whiteout pen. This is all black and white.
Damn.
So it's all heavily penciled, and then that's why it took him, 10 years to make 12 issues. How meticulous this style is and how consistent it is throughout the thing. So, and it's pretty much this, what I like about this book too, is it has everything I don't like in a comic. Like it's about teenagers, who gives a shit.
Old man Ed and that.
There's a ton of talking heads in it, which I always criticize comics having. There's no supernatural twist to it. It's basically like kind of like you said, it's a slice of like kind of like what your pick was, Kory, where it's nothing really supernatural, no real big action sequences, a lot of crazy imagery where you get that Lynchian kind of bizarre, surreal imagery, but no real action things, splash pages, nothing terribly exciting happens, but there's this dread throughout the whole thing. The way it's drawn, all the black that's used. So when there's like a day scene or when it's like, oh, wow, this is okay. It changes the mood in just two colors, no grayscale, no even little cheap little pops of color to kind of, oh, this is what I'm trying to say.
Not even like the scratch marks. It's just like solid.
The only thing that scratch marks is he meets one of the love interests. Her room is full of her artwork, and it's all like basically paste up, but of his sketchbook. So like there's like a scene, I'll find it and I'll send it to you, but there's a scene with, she has all her artwork pasted on the wall, and it's like there's different styles, but those were all basically photocopied and kind of pasted on the actual page. So those weren't drawn on the page. So they were basically like pasted up, if you know what I'm saying. So that's the only time you really see a difference in style, when it's an actual piece of art within this world. So everything is consistent. Sometimes he'll use these wavy border panels to kind of as like a time shift or a memory or a hallucination or a bad dream or a bad drug trip. So a lot of sex, a lot of drugs in this, but nothing I would consider exploitative or like, just gross or, it's not exploitation. It's just in there. It's part of the story. But if you have aversions to, pubic hair and penises drawn, it might not be the book for you. But like I said, it's and the dialogue is so straight and like and I think if you were a white suburb kid, you probably know people like these. Because this is kind of where it takes place. This isn't...
I guess I can't read it.
You know white people. But there's like the college burnouts that you go buy weed from. These are people that at a certain time in your life you may or may not have met.
When I first joined, when I first started hanging out in Riverside, got it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, those guys.
I was gonna say when I lived in Riverside, but yeah, I'll double down on that. But it's it is bleak throughout the whole way, and the ending is very ambiguous. You're not really sure. One set of characters, you kind of see there's some hope, but there's just an uncertain hope to it. The other one, I don't know. It's kind of leaves it up in the air whether it's the end of that life or it's just, thinking what to do next. What's the next step? So I think the allegory for the disease is more adolescence, because this only affects teenagers in this world. So I think the allegory is more not AIDS, not STDs, but it's just kind of that awkward transition from being a teenager to adulthood, and how weird, and you don't know what you're doing. At least I didn't, and I think a lot of people don't. But no direction, you're not sure what's going on. And then that kind of, I think that represent that. And another cool thing too is in the book, he does these yearbook pictures of the kids, and I'm thinking this was his yearbook when he was a kid. He's drawing portraits from this yearbook. So
this is a really well drawn book.
So one page is like the kids normal, and then you see the kids affected by the disease on the in the back page. So it's like, and even him, check it out. This is him now, and this is him as a kid with that fro.
Yeah. This reminds me of like, I'm getting like Hernandez brothers.
Oh yeah.
Love and Rockets, and a little bit of like Mike Allred too. Something about how like flat everything is.
How flat, how clean.
Yeah.
And like perfect the line is, and he's like in that group too. Like I said, I think they're pretty much contemporaries. I think Allred and him, but you can see there's some influence going that way. But he hasn't done too many books. He's done a handful of other ones because he does, like I said, he's got other things he's doing. But like I said, this has been, I think why I like this so much, and this is kind of on my top 5 of all time, is because it has everything I wouldn't normally seek out in a book, but it's done so well that I love it.
That's cool.
That's what I always come back and I always read it, and I'm always like, how long did it take him to draw this? Because everything he draws, from even just foliage or even just like an ashtray with cigarettes, it's like, man, this is incredible. So yeah, if you haven't seen Charles Burns' art, man, just check it out. It is probably the best brushwork and inking I've ever seen.
That is one hell of a presentation, Ed. And I'm glad you explained the story, because to your point, I've seen this image, this cover, the cover for the trade and hardcover, like everywhere. At one point, it was like you said, in a lot of like best of lists. I think it was in a lot of like solicitations, and I think for me, the cover fooled me. I thought it was like I thought it was about like a serial killer or something, like a Dahmer series or something like that. So I would not have guessed that, because I don't know,
because it looks like a victim.
Yeah, right. Like anytime that you've got like a portrait of someone on the cover with their eyes blacked out or covered up, it's like, nah, that's some serial killer
I think
shit.
the covers do, but imagine seeing like a cover like this.
Yeah, I didn't know
then
they
you're
came
like
out single issues. That's fucking wild.
You're like, oh, what is going on here? These are just stunning. And like even the color ones, it's just like very flat colors, but it's so much detail. It just really pops.
Ashley, do you remember? Do you recall seeing this cover around when you were working at the shop or anything? I feel like this was.
I
like one of
remember
those
seeing
books.
it, but I never picked it up, because I do remember it. Just, you never knew when the next one was going to come out.
Yeah, so sporadic.
Good stuff. All right, so Ed, you took us back to like more of a grounded reality, comic book story wise. I'm going maybe I kind of full to the other side. This one is a lot more, I think, on the supernatural angle, and maybe one that I don't know, our short box listeners, I don't know if they would have expected this one from me. So
I was almost going to pick that one.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, good stuff. This was all right. So let me just introduce my series. The horror comic that I'm spotlighting today is Afterlife with Archie. It was the 2013 series written by Roberto Aguirre Sacasa with art by Francisco Francavilla, obviously published by Archie Comics. And this has been on my list to read for a long time. And and I decided, why not use this episode to kind of like, dive into a series that's been on my to read list. I remember reading Sabrina, the Teenage Witch series that spun out of this, really liking it, but not really understanding the context or like why she got her own series. But I remember just liking that series. Afterlife with Archie. This is my first time reading Afterlife with Archie, and I gotta say, it is like, Ed, much like you said. I guess this isn't a normal comic I would have read, but I think because of that and my expectations not really being there, it was a pleasant surprise. It is like, it was amazing. It was a really good fucking book.
I recommended that for a while, and people would
laugh at you. They scoffed at you.
Yeah, because I thought the same thing. But I like Francesco Francavilla. Mm-hmm. His art's so cool, and I saw it. It's like, this looks pretty. I thought it was like, what is this cheese rock?
Yeah, I thought it was like some. I thought it was like like one of those like Archie meets Punisher, Archie meets Predator,
Archie meets
something like that.
It's like, but
no.
I've read so many good reviews. So many people like talked about it. I finally broke down and got the trade.
Yeah,
I was like, this is the best horror comic.
It
of
is
the year.
incredible. Before I really get into what it's about, Ashley, have you read this?
I read the first trade paperback of it. I liked it a lot.
And you were so fucking scared, you decided never to revisit it. I don't blame you, Ashley. Little crybaby. I'm kidding.
Well, I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
When I saw the title, just the title, I was like, "Man, Uzumaki scared Botter into like baby comics." Never again, never
He's
again.
traumatized. Junji Ito traumatized.
Oh, I want Drew shortly after that my little Junji Ito infatuation phase, which lasted maybe like 2 weeks because I was just scared out of my mind. He found a like hardcover art book. And he was like, "Hey man, I know you're really into Junji Ito right now. I found this book. Do you want me to grab it for you, bro?" And I was like, "Yeah, hell yeah, get that art book." I flipped through 2 pages of that art book and closed it forever. That was even more fucked up.
It's on Whatnot, guys.
And-
Next Whatnot. She's going cheap.
From my personal collection.
Cursed book is going
So,
cheap.
All right, but back to Afterlife with Archie. Corey and Ashley, I shared the image for reference in the chat. But Afterlife with Archie, like I said, it was a 2013 series, 10 issues in total. It was collected in 2 trade paperbacks, divided into 2 volumes. And the idea came out of just a random variant cover that Frank Avelli did for Life with Archie. Frank Avelli did for Life with Archie number 23, which was released in 2012. It was just a variant B cover. And when you look at the original cover for Life with Archie number 23, it is like a world of difference. I think the regular cover is like Archie playing a guitar and, Jughead with a girl and Betty and Veronica. Like your usual Archie covers that come to mind when you think of the company and the comic. But this variant depicts a group of zombies led by zombie Jughead, slowly approaching Archie in a graveyard. And it's like classic kind of comic book cover. There's a word bubble of Archie, saying something like, "Well, what's going on? Whoa, hopefully," something like that, right? So this cover was met with such positive reception that I believe the I think CEO or the editor-in-chief, I think a much higher up position than editor-in-chief, but the CEO of Archie Comics had, I think the story goes like, he was having lunch with Roberto Aguirre Sacasa, who has worked on like Glee. I think he's like been a showrunner and a writer on shows like Glee, Riverdale, a few other CW things.
The sexy Archie.
Yeah, so like Roberto has had experience kind of in this world and also in comics as well, and they were trying to like brainstorm new ways to new ideas for Archie, and they were looking at this cover, and I think Roberto was like, "Yo, imagine a story, like an expanded story just based on this cover. Like just imagine building a story based around this cover of Archie and zombies." And I think the next day he got a call from the CEO. I think his name is John Goldwater, and he was like, "Go for it. Whatever you had in mind, go for it." And that's how we get to Afterlife with Archie. And for those of you that haven't read it, might be scratching your head what it's about. It is the story of... So like I said, it was a 10-issue series split into 2 volumes. The first volume is called Escape from Riverdale, and the synopsis for that is, after a car driven by Reggie kills Hot Dog, who is Jughead's dog, Jughead asks Sabrina to bring his beloved pet back to life. She does, using some very, crazy dark arts.
Necronomicon.
Yeah, Necronomicon, yeah. Of course, this has terrible consequences because Hot Dog becomes a zombie. He bites Jughead, who instantly becomes Patient Zero, and then helps start and spread this zombie virus and contagion, and now it's like post-apocalyptic in fucking Riverdale of all places.
Pet Cemetery.
Yeah,
Zombies,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then Volume 2 kind of continues that story, but more so weeks after Archie and a very small band of his friends leave Riverdale, and they're going along a deserted It's basically like Archie meets Walking Dead. They're on deserted highways trying to stay one step ahead of the zombie horde that is being run by Jughead. It's epic.
And they do a spin-off. Sabrina gets a spin-off because of she gets punished for using the Necronomicon.
And her shenanigans in it.
Yeah, her shenanigans. So she gets... I haven't read it, but I've heard really good things about it.
And that's a series that I started reading and loved it, but I was like, man, I don't know why she got her own series. So just kind of like my commentary-wise, the 2 ingredients... So you got 2 ingredients, and they're both very familiar tropes. You got Archie on one hand, which is small town USA, slice of life, teen romance comics from the 40s. That is, I think it's the biggest brand when it comes to teen romance comics that's still around to this day. It's crazy. and then you got zombie apocalypse story on the other. And at first you're like, these two things just don't fucking go together. It's a little confusing when you kind of like hear the premise at first, but when you actually read it, I mean, it just ends up being like this seamlessly blended like thing, this new thing, and from it, like it just, I'm sorry, this new thing, and it's like almost unrecognizable from its like original components. It is so like seamlessly brought together and makes so much sense, this new world that they build.
Yeah, and I think that what makes it works because I think anyone who has read any comics has probably read an Archie comic.
Come on, absolutely.
So you know
your mom
these
has
characters.
picked it up from you at the grocery store.
It's like kind of like Superman. Even no one who reads comics, they know Superman is an alien. They know Batman's folks were killed. They know Archie and it has like Betty and Veronica going after his weird ginger ass. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, exactly. So it starts out as
likes
like
his
a
hamburgers or hot dogs.
Loves his hamburgers, but still
he
skinny.
loves all food.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it starts out as like a straightforward zombie story akin to like Shaun of the Dead or 28 Days Later. And then, like Ed was kind of alluding to, they start pulling in characters from the larger Archie universe that, you know, I personally kind of forgot about. I forgot that like Sabrina Teenage Witch is kind of in that universe. Josie and the Pussycats. Like they pull in these ancillary characters into this world and use them as vehicles to like tell even more like introduce more fascinating plot lines to this Afterlife with Archie story, and they pay homage to like, you know, other great horror media like H.P. Lovecraft. You know, at some point, like, you know, spoiler warning, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, you know, her punishment is that she ends up becoming the bride of Cthulhu. Like it's a crazy fucking issue. But they also have issues that pay homage to like The Shining and then Interview with a Vampire. The art to me isn't always perfect. Like some panels and pages aren't like perfectly drawn. And that might just be like my own, definitely my own personal taste. And I think there's some inconsistencies for my personal taste. But it's one of those stories that you, after you finish reading it, you can't imagine anyone else drawing it. Like I would be upset if they ever had like a fill-in artist, like Frank Avella. He was made to draw this, and the colors are really good too. I wish I would have grabbed the name of the colorist, but they evoke like the 70s classic horror feel. You got like a lot of like atmospheric colors like purple, orange, and reds. And it makes like this world unique. It makes it really believable and disturbing as hell. Like it's just legit disturbing. It's very existential too. And it's like, it's existential, but also like really tongue in cheek. It's like really funny, man. It's like really dark humor that's funny. And Archie is just like, I don't know. He's like super relatable. And you're watching like this slice of life American, like do good kid. I guess not really do good. I don't know. He's kind of up on the fence. He's kind of shady at times, but like you're watching him become like a hero in the middle of like this zombie apocalypse, and you kind of feel for him because they're all teenagers watching their best friend become like monsters and civilization falling apart. And there's still like the love triangle that you see between, you know, Betty, Veronica, and Archie, and then some of the other characters have their own things going on. It's just like entertaining, and I could not put down. I couldn't put it down. My only gripe is that I'm now part of the sucker nation that is eagerly waiting for the conclusion. This comic has not had any issues. So it's like they put out 10 issues, and the last issue came out in 2016. They have not released 11 and 12. They haven't like finished it yet. They have like art does exist for the covers, but there's no release dates. They haven't been published or anything. It's fucking maddening. It's like, is this part of the story to make me goddamn mad? Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. I cannot recommend it enough. And if I had to do the X meets Y formalization, I think I'll just kind of stick to what I had, which is it feels like all those things. It's Shaun of the Dead meets 28 Days Later meets H.P. Lovecraft meets Interview with the Vampire meets Dawson's Creek of all things.
Oh,
so
meets Riverdale. Is that too easy? No.
Yeah. I did have some interesting facts real quick because I just went down this like Archie rabbit hole because to add to your point. I was reading Archie comics like heavy. Like I forgot how much I was reading like Saturday morning cartoons and those type of comic strips early on when I first got into comic books. So they were more accessible and available to me than say like convincing my dad to go to the comic shop.
Yeah, or you could cry in the grocery store and they'll just give you Archie, shut you up.
So Afterlife with Archie was the first comic from the Archie line to be sold directly to comic shops versus newsstands, and which was kind of mind-blowing and impressive. Like, I think I forgot that, oh, shit, Archie Comics is still primarily a newsstand market comic. They don't sell them. They don't. You can't really find them in comic shops unless maybe you order them. They're meant to be sold in a spinner rack at a.
This was a
market.
big shot in the arm for the company.
For sure. Yeah. It is also the company's first title not to be aimed at children. It's rated teen plus. At issue 8 is when they decided to put an Archie horror logo, which spawned its own Archie horror imprint. Archie horror comics is its own imprint for them, and they've published other kind of horror themed Archie comics like the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Vampironica, which is the vampire Vampironica,
awesome.
And then they got a whole bunch more.
Is that what she is? I never picked up on that.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. And lastly,
both have the same hair.
Yeah. And lastly, Archie Comics. I didn't know this, but Archie Comics was following the Comics Code of Authority standard up until 2011. I can't recall when Marvel and DC and some of the other ones finally, did away with it, but I know it was well
90s.
before 2011. Okay, so
Yeah.
up until, what is that, 11 years ago, Archie Comics was still following this very kind of outdated standard system. And I don't find it a coincidence neither that once they dropped that outdated censorship standard, that you get this masterpiece. I think there's something very poetic and maybe very something to be said about dropping censorship and just kind of embracing.
You loosen the grip and you get more creativity.
Yeah.
You loosen your guidelines up.
Yeah, so I loved Afterlife with Archie. It is genuinely disturbing just because you're seeing very familiar characters that you associate with feel good and they could do nothing wrong, and you're seeing them in these positions. You're like, oh shit, you really feel for these guys. So,
yeah, it was shockingly good. I was like,
shockingly
this
good?
is good. Frighteningly good. I don't know, spooky season after all.
Yeah.
No, but I was just. So that was one of my favorite comics of that year because they were doing the magazine formats too, the bigger the Eerie comics and those type of things. But yeah, it was man, and like I said, his work I can see where it's polarizing, but it does have that kind of grindhouse movie, look to it. But yeah, that was one of my recommendations. If someone's coming into a shop or something, I would recommend that if they were into horror.
Exactly. Yeah. This is one that you could give someone that is I love this time of year. I love Halloween. I love getting in the mood. Every day I want to read some, horror comic. This is what I would definitely recommend. And with that being said, I wanted to go back to Kory real quick. And as far as Blood on the Tracks, Kory, I was curious to hear your XY formula / recommendation. How would you describe your comic to someone?
Okay, so it did not take long. So I would combine this, The Babadook meets V.C. Andrews' Flowers in the Attic. So The Babadook, the film, I love that because it's metaphorical for living with depression. It's a great example of a mother-son dynamic that's not working, and it is more so in the case of the mother is the reason
Ashley,
why
don't
it's
watch
not
The
working.
Babadook.
That movie's so depressing.
Oh, you already watched it? Oh no.
Yeah. Dang it, man.
And then V.C. Andrews' Flowers in the Attic is I recently listened to the audiobook, but 70s or 80s horror. But it kind of comes down to a mother that just does not give a shit about her children. They literally have to live up in an attic in a mansion for a couple of years. It's one of those that it seems like the mother cares, but it's all lying, and a lot of that goes hand in hand with Blood on the Tracks. Whenever the son tries to, when he does everything the mother says, it's not right. When he doesn't do what the mother says, it's not right. When he hangs out with someone, they're the wrong person. But it's just this constant oppression, and V.C. Andrews is kind of like that, where no matter what the kids do, the mom, that mother is a little more of a lying piece of shit, but for the most part it's that was okay, but so yeah, The Babadook meets V.C. Andrews' Flowers in the Attic. Ooh. If you've ever read that novel.
Good stuff. Ashley, I'm gonna go to you. What other I shared what I'm sorry. Ashley, I'm gonna go to you. What other Halloween-related media are you going to be consuming for the spooky season?
I have I have a list of, so I like scary movies, but I have 5 movies every year that are like always on the list.
Come on, Ashley. We love a good
What is it?
we love a good buzz list.
All right, so Trick or Treat.
Oh,
Okay, yeah.
That's gonna
such
be
a
in
Halloween
theaters.
Movie.
That's going to be in theaters re-released in theaters for a couple days.
Cool.
Yeah.
I gotta pay for it. Beetlejuice
Okay, classic.
is
Okay.
classic. The old Dawn of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead is probably my favorite
That's a
one.
good one.
And then last one, every year we watch Young Frankenstein.
Oh, classic.
That's a good, you got some range on that one.
What a
Ashley.
good pick.
I like that. Hey, what about you, man? What are you going to be consuming for the Halloween season?
Usually I will.
Brains.
I will.
You left that note in.
I would. One of my favorite artists who does kind of creepy stuff is Richard Sala. So I have a handful of his books, and I got one that was released after he passed, I think a year or two ago. So I need to actually sit down and read that one. But his stuff I usually go over, like Richard Corbin. I kind of have like a Eerie, like compilation, like a best of Eerie magazines. I'll probably read some old Alan Moore Swamp Things, just kind of the usual stuff. And I got a handful of, movies that I'll probably be watching too. So, but
Good.
yeah.
Good stuff. All right, Kory, same question to you, man. What's on the docket?
So I have already consumed a ton of horror stuff, but upcoming, I'm probably going to watch and compare the Clive Barker Books of Blood series that's on Hulu. 2020 series. The books are phenomenal, so I'm hoping the show keeps up with that.
Didn't they do a movie a few years ago? Like
A series. I don't know that they did a movie, but I'm pretty sure it's a series on Hulu. It could be a movie, but it would be like an anthology movie nonetheless.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Midnight Meat Train?
oh man, I haven't watched that in years, but the book is the short story is great. Probably the only one thing that I watch every Halloween is probably Shaun of the Dead. Because it's too good as a movie. But I don't know. I watched every Hellraiser movie last year.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Even the sci-fi originals?
Yes.
6 and 7?
So I
Oh, dear
watched,
Lord.
all the way up through 10, I think it is.
10?
Yeah,
there's
there's
more
a
than I
lot of them. Yeah, there's too many.
You can quit
But
after one.
You probably should go listen to my review.
Kory, don't go out like that, man.
Yeah, but I
Go
wanna
backwards,
watch,
and they get better if you go backwards.
Yeah, there you go. Do it in reverse chronological order. It only gets better from there. But I want to do either like Scream or I don't know, one of the other big franchises, because I've never really, I never really cared about any of the slasher films growing up. But there's, listening to like the Straight Chilling review and like their community talk about stuff like that, it's no different than like listening to people talk about like Godzilla films, monster movies. We're like, yeah, I know it sucks, but hear me out. Like, it's still good. So I want to pick one of those franchises, probably not for review, just to watch, to say that I did it and be like, yeah, okay, like this is what, Friday the 13th has to offer. This is what, Scream has, or not Scream, but Halloween has to offer.
Oh.
Cool.
And read a few more horror manga titles. So plenty
Good
of fun.
stuff. I like that lineup. As you guys know, for me, when it comes to the spooky season, my limit is normally like the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror marathon. I noticed on FX they've already started. It was on yesterday all day, so I watched a good bit of them. I think Treehouse of Horror 5 from season 6 is still my favorite. You get to see Homer go crazy. You get to see Homer fuck up time and space searching for a donut, and you legit get to see like and you get to see one of the like legit creepiest things I've ever seen on an animated TV show. The fog that turns people inside out. That is on that same Treehouse of Horror episode.
And they even have
as
that
well.
catchy song.
Yeah,
That
song and
fog
dance at the
hurt
end.
people inside out.
To see it again on TV, I was like, God, damn, this is fucked up.
I like the donut machine in hell. I don't know which
man.
episode that is, but they're like feeding them donuts in hell. So
More.
you like donuts, huh? More. And they run out of donuts.
So I'm here for the Treehouse of Horror marathon. I kind of want to. I might try to watch it from the first one all the way up to the current one. I know I'm missing some of them in the more recent seasons, so that might be my goal. And then a comic series that's on my radar for the spooky season is a title or a series called Refrigerator Full of Heads. And if you guys recall, I think earlier this year I championed the series Basket Full of Heads. Well, this is the sequel. So you will go from a basket full of heads to a
they're
refrigerator full of
Okay, all right.
Moving on up.
Moving on up.
Yeah.
Walk-in cooler full of heads.
So this is a sequel to Joe Hill's Basket Full of Heads. It came out through DC Comics Black Label, the Hill House Comics imprint, so more on their horror kind of scary story side. And it was 6 issues, and it's all done. I don't know how the hell I missed it, but it looks like a new writer hopped onto it and a new artist, a new creative team overall. So that'll be on my radar. That's what I'm going to read. But with that being said, I think we've told enough scary stories for this episode, and I'm running out of clean underwear.
Gross.
So let's put a bloody bow on this segment and move on
Bloody
to...
underwear bow?
Kory, this is a family show.
Yeah,
all right?
it's too far,
I know
bro.
you're new. I know you're new
Too
here.
far.
All right. But let's move on to more unalarming topics and talk about the best new comics coming out next month. Let's grab a fistful of comics, why don't we?
You can either have a mouthful of teeth or a fistful of comics.
Fistful of Comics is the part of the show dedicated to all you Wednesday warriors who loyally frequent your local comic shops every week, as well as newbies looking for a little help and direction on where to spend your hard-earned cash when it comes to the best new comics. This segment is brought to you by Ben Kingsbury, owner of Gotham City Limit, Jacksonville's premier shop for comics, toys, collectibles, and more. And if you don't know by now, every week Ben, a.k.a. the ultimate comic salesman, he calls in with a top 3 list of new comics coming out next month that he feels are worthy of any reader's attention and money, all right? It's been a couple of weeks since we heard from Ben, but he's back this week, all right? So let's not waste any more time and cue up the music and see what he's picked out today. So first up on his list, all right, this first one is Batman number 129. It comes from DC Comics, obviously. It is a series that is currently being written by Chip Zdarsky with artwork by Leonardo Romero and Jorge Jimenez. And you might be asking, like, why would Ben pick a random issue of Batman to recommend, considering that he normally kind of tries to stick to, like, new number ones and new series and et cetera, et cetera. And I was asking the same thing, but of course, Ben's pitch is, like, spot on for him. So I'll pass it to Ben to explain it.
What's up, Shortbox crew? It's the return of the Ben. And speaking of returns, let's take a trip down memory lane. Do you remember the first comic book you bought with your very own money? Well, I do. It was Silver Surfer 50, a foil multi-level embossed cardstock variant, which leads me right into my pick of the week, Batman 129. Well, those foil multi-level embossed cardstock variants are back, and at the limit, we judge books by its cover. Hopefully, this will be a first for someone, and they'll remember 30 years from now where they were when this came out.
Those are very high expectations, Ben. Wow. But I love it. Ashley, a question for you. Do you remember the first comic you bought with your own money?
I just remember that it was Fantastic Four, and it was at a flea market, and it was with change. That's all
Nice.
I remember.
Pennies, a dime here, maybe a nickel. If you're lucky, a quarter. I like it. All right, once again, Batman number 129, this Ryan Benjamin 90s cover with a foil multi-level embossed cardstock variant. I swear to God, it's always a mouthful when it comes to the variants. That is
I'm gonna
arriving
say,
in
like,
shops.
he could say that 3 times fast, but you can't.
That's what makes Ben the ultimate salesman and con man, and me, not so much, right? I joke on the con man part. This that issue arrived
Convention
in shops.
man. Yeah, that's
Convention
convention. There
man.
you go.
Thank you so much.
Convention.
Ed.
Yeah, see?
Short box legal to my left here, right? That arrives in shops November 1st. All right, moving on. His next item on his list, Sticking more in line of his usual recommendations, this next comic is a brand new #1 from Image Comics called Hell to Pay. Ben, take it away.
Our first pick of the week, we judged a comic by its cover. Now in our second, Hell to Pay #1, presented by Image Comics, we judge this book by its content. The writer, Charles Soule, from the hit new series 8 Billion Genies, is back with a Hellboy meets Indiana Jones style adventure. Newly married couple makes a deal with the devil, and the devil owns their soul till the debt is paid. Sounds a lot like marriage to me. Hell to Pay #1 by Image Comics.
Jeez, man.
I love when Ben works a one-liner in his stand-up routine. I just swear, Ben has a tight 5. Ben has a tight 5 ready to go. Oh, that was good. All right, once again, that series was a Hell to Pay #1, brand new series coming out through Image Comics. It's arriving in shops November 2nd. And last but not least on Ben's list, Ben selects one. This one's from Marvel Comics. All right, but aside from a new #1 from Marvel Comics, he also has a tongue twister to go with it. So I'm going to let Ben take it away one more time.
And finally, Spider-Man Lost Hunt #1. You can judge this comic by its content and its cover. The cover art by Ryan Brown is spectacular, but it's what's inside that has me the most intrigued. The origin of Kraven the Hunter is finally revealed. Take a trip back to Spider-Man, the Final Adventure time period where a powerless Peter Parker moves to Portland. Try saying that 5 times fast. Hopefully, where there's a Kraven and a powerless Peter Parker, there might even be a clone Ben Reilly. Well, that's it. Remember, with great power comes great responsibility, and always take it to the limit.
Powerless Peter Parker moves to Portland. Powerless Peter Parker moves to Portland. Powerless Peter Parker moves to Portland. Almost had it. All right. Nonetheless, once again, that was Spider-Man Lost Hunt #1. That is arriving in shops November 23rd. It definitely looks like another attempt at revisiting a classic story from the 90s. I think this is supposed to be like a prequel to Kraven's Last Hunt, which is one of my favorite Spider-Man stories ever. And I think the only saving grace with this news is that the writer of the original Last Hunt series, J.M. DeMatteis, I think is how you say it, is writing it. So that's nice to hear.
It's like a prequel to Spider-Man. He doesn't have his powers yet.
I get he's a powerless Peter Parker in Portland.
And he's in Portland? Pshaw.
All right. Kory, Ashley, Ed, of those 3 options, we got Batman 129, 90s variant, Hell to Pay #1, and Spider-Man Lost Hunt #1. Which one is worthy of making it on your poll list? Ashley, take it away.
So the only thing that would beat out an Image #1 is something written by Chip Zdarsky. So I'm going with Batman.
Whoa, a surprise pick from Ashley Laney. Hoy, ladies and gents. That was a little surprise.
Oh my God!
A little surprise right there. Ashley. That was a good one. All right, Kory, what about you?
I'm gonna have to go with Hell to Pay, because Hellboy meets Indiana Jones just sounds like a ton of fun.
Yeah, that's a great description. Great solicitation. Ed, what about you?
Hell to Pay, because I agree with him about marriage. Am I right, guys? Boy. Hell to Pay.
All right, that's a good one. I'm gonna go with Ashley on this one, only because I've seen the cover. I don't know if you guys clicked the link I put in the show notes, and I got it pulled up here for Ed. But the cover looks badass.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's a slick cover.
That is a cool cover.
Super slick. And if it's what is it again? It's a foil multi-level embossed cardstock variant. I think it's gonna look good. All right, it might come to a whatnot show near you.
Oh,
yeah. So I'm gonna go with Batman 129. So we're split evenly. 2 for Batman 129, 2 for Hell to Pay #1, which means I'm gonna leave it up to our listeners to let us know which one they're gonna pick up. Right? If you end up picking up one of these titles, write in and let us know. But that's the list this week. If any of those pique your interest, make sure you ask your local comic shops to order them for you. And I want to shout out to Ben from Gotham City Limit for putting those on our radar and always steering us in the right direction. He gets extra points this week because he was going to a wedding this week, and he didn't think he was going to be able to send in his picks. Well, Saturday, not only did he send in his picks, he sent them in very early. He sent them in on Saturday morning versus Sunday morning. And he wrote them all down on like the hotel like little notepad that they give you by the side of the bed.
Nice.
I was like, man, come on, that's dedication, all right? So big shout outs to Ben. And remember, even if you don't live in Jax, you can still take it to the limit by shopping their online store, which is linked in the episode show notes. Now we're going to go ahead and take a quick music break to stretch our legs. But after that, we got one email to address in our mailbag segment that's coming up. And we got some champion picks to share with all of you that are looking for some new entertainment options to dive into. All of that and more after this quick music break, which is provided to us by DJ Crumbs. Enjoy the music. We'll be right back.